Hello everyone, my name is Naomi. Welcome back to my channel. On my channel I talk a lot about my journey. I do talk a lot. We could just stop that sentence right there. I talk a lot. It's okay. But I talk a lot about my journey toward health, sustainability, low waste, zero waste, going green, that kind of thing. So as I do different things and learn different things and try different things, I like to share them with you all so that maybe it will be something maybe you would want to try, or so that maybe you would learn from my mistakes, because sometimes I make mistakes. Sometimes they're big mistakes. Sometimes they're little mistakes. But as a human, I make mistakes. But enough about my mistakes. Let's talk about my latest project. Last year, I grew one herb, basil. That was it. But I really enjoyed having that pot of fresh basil sitting on my front porch in the window. And I could just, when I was cooking, just walk out there and cut some fresh basil. And I was cooking with fresh basil, and it was amazing. I dehydrated a bunch of basil. I bought, and surprisingly, it did not end up being as much as I thought. I bought these tiny little ball jars. They're the cutest little thing ever. I love jars. But I dehydrated my basil, and I had bought this 4-pack, and so I filled my dehydrated basil up, crumbled it up, put it into these little ball jars. It did not last long, so clearly I need to grow more and dehydrate more, but I figured we'll just expand on what I did last year. So I created a herb garden space for myself outside. This was last weekend, I think. Yeah, last Sunday, I went outside and I took a bunch of bricks that my husband had removed from our chimney. We have a really old house, and when we first moved in, there was a brick chimney, which is now mostly torn out. When we got a new furnace, we vented the furnace out the side of the house, so we no longer needed the chimney. So my husband did, when we had the roof redone, he pulled the bricks down below the roof line, and then he did go into the attic and pull them down to the upstairs ceiling, and then he pulled them down through my son's room when he remodeled our son's room. When he remodels the living room, he's going to pull more bricks out. And then he should be able to just go into the basement and haul what's left of the chimney bricks out of the basement, and then we'll be done with the chimney. It'll be gone. But we had this stack of bricks, and so he made a fire pit last summer, but we still had these bricks. So I decided to make myself a raised bed for my herbs, because I'm determined to have more herbs and to dehydrate more herbs this year. So what I did, it's only 3 bricks high, and then I took a bunch of dead leaves and laid them across the bottom. And then I dumped some of my compost in there, and the compost is not fully broke down, but I didn't think that was a big deal because with the soil and everything, I think that it'll break down even faster. And then I had some potting soil, and that was the only dirt that I had last weekend. So I did pour what I had left of my potting soil across the top of the compost. This weekend I picked up topsoil. So I did add a couple of bags of topsoil, and that will need to settle. And then next weekend I may add another bag or 2 of topsoil, depending on how that settles. Hi, Marley. Hi, what you doing? So that's going to be my herb garden. That's where I'm going to plant my herbs. And I have some of them started in the house already. I think I mentioned it in a previous video, sage. I'm growing it in these little mushroom trays. So I've got some sage to plant out there. I have chives. I was trying to grow some myself, but I ended up just picking them up at Walmart. I can reuse that plastic container for something else. So I grow stuff every year, so I like to reuse the little plastic pots. But my chives did not germinate, and I think the seeds were just too old. So I did end up buying 2 of those little pots of chives from Walmart that I can just plant in there. And then I've got some basil and some mint started. And then I'm going to do some lemon balm, and I've got a bunch of stuff over there. Rosemary, thyme. I don't remember. I've got a bunch of seeds. That's all I know. And so I'm going to plant a whole bunch of different herbs into my little herb garden. So it's just this little patch, but I think I could get quite a bit out of it if I am strategic about how I do this. Anyway, so for my next dilemma was when my herb garden produces and I have to start dehydrating this stuff, I'm going to need jars, little jars. I only have the 4 from when I planted basil last year. I'm probably going to need more than that. And then I realized the spices that I buy, Simply Organic, they come in the nicest little glass jar. And that is a metal lid. There is a plastic dispenser thing right there. But my thoughts were, why wouldn't I just save these little glass jars and reuse them? So I do have the one from my chili powder that we recently emptied that I washed out, and I will use that for my herbs. And then any other ones, we've got, I think, crushed red pepper or something that's almost empty. But any little glass jars I have for spices that we currently use, as we use up the spice, I'm just going to reuse the jar. It saves me money for one thing, and then it also makes it so that I'm reusing something rather than creating waste. And sometimes it is much more sustainable to just find something that you already have that you can use to do the job than to go out and buy something brand new. So this is something that makes me very, very happy, discovering, oh hey, I have a solution. I don't have to go buy a bunch of stuff. And if I don't have enough, and say I have a large quantity of herbs, I do have other jars that I can use that are larger. So if I say had a large amount of chives that I dehydrated, I could just put it in, say, a pint jar or a quart jar, and then refill the smaller little glass jar from a big one. So that is my plan, to have a whole bunch of herbs that I grow myself, because you can't get much more zero waste than growing your own food. So I'm expanding my garden. I'm not just going to use the little patch like last year, and last year was pitiful. My garden was awful because of all the rain we had. It was a terrible year for planting. The farmers couldn't get planted. It was just bad all around. So I'm going to use my little garden patch. I'm going to reuse the flower bed for things that are edible. I think I'm going to put pepper plants across the front of my house, which may seem crazy, but I'd rather have things that are edible than things that are pretty, because I really feel like it would be better to grow more of my own food, and we would be a little bit less dependent upon the supermarket. Only slightly less, because I don't have a lot of space, but I do also have some potatoes that I stuck in the ground. So all the fun. We'll see if those potatoes will produce anything for me as the plant grows. I'm going to hill them like you're supposed to and see if we can get any Yukon Gold potatoes. I had some organic ones that were starting to grow, so I put those to good use. I will keep all of you updated on how my gardening goes this year, because I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Once I get my herbs into my herb garden, I'm going to give you a little tour of my herb garden. My thumbnail photo is going to be a photo of my new little herb garden, even though there's no herbs in it yet. But I figured that way you could see what my little herb garden looks like. And I will do a tour of my garden once I get to moving on the garden. So thank you for watching, and please tell me about your garden. What are you growing this year? And do you have a small garden? Or even if you're in an apartment, you can have a little container garden. You could put some plant pots in front of your windows so they'd get plenty of sunlight. You can grow something in your apartment. Everybody can grow a little bit of something that would maybe make it so that you have some fresh food in your house that you grew yourself. It would be awesome. So thank you for watching, and you guys stay safe and stay healthy. We now have COVID-19 cases where my husband works, so we're kind of going to have to be a little bit more cautious and a little more careful. So please stay safe, stay healthy, and grow something in your garden. Bye-bye.